To get this meeting started. To note, this meeting will be recorded. Give me one moment to start that. Oh, it's already started. Give me one moment to share, get my screen all set up. Okay, welcome everybody to the pre-application workshop for a 22-room, 3-story hotel proposed to be located at 1350 and 1390 Main Street in Montara. First, we're going to go over a little bit about the workshop format for today. First, we'll start with staff's introduction, which will include a rundown of the applicable regulations and necessary permits based on the current scope of the project. Next, we'll have the applicant give a presentation on the project, and then we'll open up public comment, and then we will close public comment and leaving time for staff and for the applicant to respond to comments, and then we will conclude the meeting. So a summary of the pre-application process. Why do we do this? Number one, it's required by the zoning regulations. The purpose of this is to foster early public involvement on major development projects. The key word there is early, catching everything at an early stage so the applicant can take the comments from both staff and from you, the public, and consider that in terms of their design. In terms of steps, we've got the early assistance meeting just completed, agency referrals which have been completed, and the public workshop, which is happening right now, and then a summary letter, which for the people who are within the mailing radius and for those who leave their email address or mailing address with us, you'll get that letter in approximately 2 to 3 weeks. So once again, the purpose of this workshop is to allow early community involvement and input. It is for informational purposes only. It does not imply any approval or rejection of the project by the county. And so just to clarify a little bit based on the correspondence we received, we are at a very preliminary stage. There are certain elements that have not been completed yet, and I'll go over that in the following slide. So in terms of applicable regulations, those are basically, you want to look at what permits are required. So you have a coastal development permit, a design review permit, a use permit, a grading permit, and a merger. In terms of environmental review, we received a lot of correspondence about this, questioning where is the environmental review. The answer to that is it's coming, but it is a little bit too early in the process for us to complete that. At minimum, this project will require an initial study / negative declaration. So in terms of the project area, it consists of 2 parcels which are proposed to be merged. Once again, the general plan land use designation is neighborhood commercial, and the zoning for both of them is C1, S3, DR, CD. I'll explain that a little further. So C1 is your neighborhood business district, just saying it's commercially zoned, commercial zoning. S3, combining district, which defines your development standards. DR for design review, and CD for coastal development. In terms of actual development standards, S3 is one of the big keys because this is what dictates your setbacks and your lot coverage and height and so forth. Next, just to give you a little bit of context, you'll see the project site is highlighted in yellow in the middle. And then it is sitting within an island of a dark mustard color of C1, S3, DR, CD. So that is your commercial zoning. Next, you have the light brick red color, which is the R1, S17 zoning districts. And so that's your single family residential zoning district. And finally, you have a small patch of PUD a little bit to the south. And so that basically that PUD zoning was tailored for the development on that property. So in terms of a summary for the development review process, you've got your major development pre-application review, your submittal of the formal application. And so the next steps would be the formal application needs to be deemed complete. When we say deemed complete, we mean reviewed by all the necessary reviewing agencies. So that's planning, building, fire, water, sewer, public works, drainage, geotechnical, and so forth. All of them take their piece and review. And once they are all satisfied with what the applicant has provided, Then we commence the environmental review. And so, like I said, again, minimum, it'll be a initial study negative declaration. And then after that, then we get to planning commission hearings. The planning commission will make the decision on the project. And also, just as a small note, the project is appealable to the California Coastal Commission. And so, yes. And now I'll turn it over to the applicant for their presentation. Brian, if you'd like to share your screen.
Thanks, Ramel. My name is Brian Brinkman. I'm the designer on the project. Paul McGregor, the owner of the property, came to me about four and a half years ago, 2016. He had the property for a while, and he was looking to develop it. I'll let him speak a little more to that later, but after analyzing the different options with the zoning, he felt like a hotel would be the best use for the site and was needed for the neighborhood, for the community. So he came to me with his preliminary ideas, and we kind of sat down and hashed through different iterations, and then eventually submitted to the planning department. The initial submittal was a little bit larger. There was more rooms, and there was a couple of residential units on one more story above what you see today. And then going through comments with the planning department, we eliminated that upper level and have the proposal that is before you tonight that meets the zoning standards. The hotel is oriented towards Main Street for primary pedestrian access. The primary function is oriented towards Main Street. There is the garage that provides the required parking that is below the hotel, which is accessed from the south side on 7th Street. As I mentioned, all the zoning regulations are met. The lot coverage, maximum 50% for the S3 district, and we're just under that. We have 31% landscape natural coverage that has been maintained. And then the height has been maintained for the S3 district. I know there's been some initial concern about the potential height. I have the current project meets the height requirements based on the S3 district and how you take the average grade and the average roof height, and you get your maximum height that way. Just for context for everyone, the majority of the building is under 29 feet in height above the point of the existing grade that's directly below. A lot of it even 28 feet, which is what is kind of standard in the S17 residential district. The southwest corner, just because that's the low point, there is a section that extends a little above that, but the max height is about 32'6" in the current proposal. And again, that's just a small portion of the roof projecting that high at the southwest corner of the building. The materials that we proposed, when we discussed, Paul was concerned. He wanted something that was going to last. We entertained some natural wood elements, but in the end, we felt like that would be more of a potential for rot, as those take quite a bit of upkeep on the coast side. So the current design has hardy shingle and hardy batten board siding. And then the garage level, we used as stucco. The colors we have introduced here are, muted colors, earth tones to try and mute the massing of the building as much as possible. I think we've done a good job with articulation. We have decks on both the front and the back. We have received some initial feedback from a few members of the CDRC, and we feel like there's a lot of good suggestions there that we're definitely willing to take a look at and likely incorporate some. Again, the wood elements I think we want to shy away from just for the sake of longevity of the building and the upkeep. And then the only other thing was especially on the west facing side, the way we have it designed now, the decks are enclosed, the primary decks, and there's some decks that are at least covered. And that again was just to protect from the wear from that west facing elevation. Going further, we have the parking below. The way it calcs out for the hotel, 6 parking spaces are required for the hotel rooms, and a few additional spots for the employees that will run the hotel. We currently have 15 parking spaces provided, which is more than what would be necessary per the zoning code. We have elevators that will take you from the garage up to the hotel. And here we have rooms on both sides, the main reception area that comes from Main Street. Paul and I just went back and forth entertaining the idea of putting a small restaurant in here. In the end, we felt that it would intensify the use on the property that we didn't want to get to. So instead we have a lobby, sitting, waiting area that would have nice ocean views, and an area for a small breakfast and potentially happy hour in the evening. Other than that, there's the standard hotel operations with the office and miscellaneous. We don't have any conference rooms or anything like that. And then there's more rooms upstairs. I think at this point, I'll turn it over to Paul to add anything else he wanted to.
Paul, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Would you like to add anything else to Brian's presentation?
Well, yes, I would. And thank you for your time involved in this project. I know it's been taking quite some time, and it actually took a long time to consider to get to this point of wanting to build a hotel there versus doing more commercial on Main Street in Montara. As you know, Ramel, I own the building next door, 1300 Main Street. It consists of a beauty salon, graphic works. It's probably the only viable business on Main Street in Montara. If you look at some of the other commercial buildings that have been built there many years ago, a lot of them have been converted to residential usage, probably without county approval, but that's not my problem. That would be yours. The only other really businesses that are running on that on Main Street right there is probably the hotel that's close by, and also the gas station, which is on Highway 1. So instead of me putting more commercial space in there, I thought it would be a much better thing for the community to have a hotel, to be able to have people in the neighborhood that want to put their family up, that don't want to have them in their house. And then also the aspect of people that don't have the opportunity to stay on the coastside because all the hotels on the coastside are usually booked. It's hard to get a room down here. It's very difficult. And then on being on the north end of the coast side, Montara is a really good place to be as far as people that want to get to the city, San Francisco, up north, Marin, and so forth. And it'd be a place for them to stay instead of being stuck in the traffic that occurs every weekend, which is very heavy. I've been down here for 38 years, and it's just getting worse. And I want to give people the opportunity to stay in a place that has wonderful ocean views. And the other aspect is it's going to be family run. And also, I want to employ locals, which is very important to me. And the other thing is, people that don't have the funds and means to be able to stay down there, I want to donate 2 to 3 rooms or 10% of the rooms there in order to people with lower incomes to be able to come stay down and enjoy the coast and see all the wonderful things that there is to offer. And besides that, commercial on this street, I'd be better off to put in storage units because I'd be lucky to get $1 a foot right now, which makes no sense in order to even build this project. So I think this is the best and most desirable use for this location. And on that note, I'll let you take it over.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Appreciate it.
I don't see myself on the screen. Where am I?
You're there. I see you. I'm sure the rest of us do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Okay, so let me share my screen. One moment, please. So now we will be opening public comment. So the instructions are here laid out. You'll click the raise hand feature to join the queue to speak. If you're joining us by phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand. Again, that's *9 to raise your hand. When you hear your name or the last 4 digits of your phone number called, staff will prompt you to unmute your account and inform you that you may begin speaking. Staff will then ask you to clearly state your name, address, and email address for the record. This is essential just for our record keeping and also so we can get you an email of that summary letter when this is all over. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes. Questions for the applicant will be addressed after the public comment period. And Janet, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Ramel. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen really quickly and put the timer up on so everyone can see. And right now I do see the numbers climbing. For right now, I see 5 hands raised. Let's see, the first hand I see is for Sean. So Sean, please accept this request, unmute your microphone and begin speaking. 1 second. Can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Great. Thanks for the presentation. And Paul, thanks for walking us through the rationale for looking to put a hotel on the street. A couple things. I'd be interested, obviously, I know you talked about doing an environmental assessment study. Obviously, and I don't think, Paul, you echoed this, since the tunnel's open, we continue to have more and more traffic. And making left or right turns on that traffic is, at best dangerous. Adding 22 more rooms, at least 22 more cars, not to mention service delivery vehicles and trucks, is going to put a lot of strain on that main street, right? And getting in and onto that highway. And obviously most of the traffic coming is probably going to be coming from San Francisco, especially on the service delivery side to provide for the hotel. So I'd be interested to see what the plans are around the traffic easement stuff. The other piece of it, as you mentioned, you've got 6 car spaces for 22 rooms. I'd be interested in where the rest of those cars are going to be parking. And whether or not there's going to be provision for parking on the high street. So you're looking to improve the high street by adding parking to carry the overflow traffic, including the staffing. So that's another question I have. And then obviously the other piece of it is, we all know, living in Montara, we have a horrendous problem with the water and sewage, and given that water is local water. So obviously putting in 22 hotels in that are going to be using up that water, I'm sure it's good revenue for the investment, for the water board, but it's going to put some strain on the infrastructure. And right now we're all being taxed crazily on that infrastructure. So those are the kind of concerns I have. Obviously, height constraints, it looked like it's in keeping with the height. So, 3 stories sounds kind of scary, but when you look at it, it looks like it's 2 stories. So I don't really have an issue with that. But really it's the traffic, the issue and the infrastructure is a concern that I have. And then Paul, I appreciate you wanting to do great things for the environment and for people, but at the end of the day, you're running a business, right? So if we put in a hotel up there, we're all gonna be living with a hotel. So, in 5 years from now, those free hotel rooms you're giving away may no longer be free. So I'm really concerned about the impact to the environment and impact to our community here, and making sure it remains a livable community. So that's my comment. I appreciate the time today. Thanks.
Thank you, Sean. Next, we have Randy Bauman, followed by Beverly Garrity. So Randy, if you can please accept my request, unmute your microphone and begin speaking. Hold on just one second. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Go ahead, Randy.
All right. So I live one house up on 6th Street. So I can see that property if I look towards the ocean. So it'll block my view a little bit, but if I had that property, I'd probably want to build on it as well. So that's just a personal thing for me. My concern is just a couple things. One is it's the choice of a hotel to help the neighborhood or the community. That makes no sense to me at all. If they were going to put a restaurant in it, which they declined to do, they didn't think it was a good idea. That's something that would have helped, I think, the local community, because we do like to walk and go out to get something to eat, especially since La Costanera is moving down to Keaton Ernan's property at the Oceana Hotel. And so it would have been nice to have a restaurant in there, actually, something that was good. So parking is probably my biggest concern for our immediate community and neighborhood around it. Like I said, I live just half a block away from that. I can see the little house that's going to go away from our house. And we have a curb and a sidewalk that comes up from Main Street and it ends at our house. Everybody loves to park against a curb. And so when we come home from the grocery store or whatever, we never have parking. And I'm really concerned about the parking space issues. So, if they could get through like permit parking only for our immediate neighborhoods around, I would be okay with it. But anyways, just to kind of expand on where are all the other cars going to park and where is the staff going to park? And I think that's all I have, actually. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Randy. Next, we have Beverly Garrity. Beverly, please accept this request to unmute your microphone and begin speaking. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Beverly?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
All right, thank you. I'd like to read 3 letters from 3 members of the public who also happen to be on the Coastal Design Review Committee meeting. The first one is from Rebecca Katkin. She is a licensed architect. And she writes, I have reviewed the project application for the proposed new 22-room hotel at the corner of 7th and Main Street in Montara and have the following questions and comments. The provided floor plans include furniture layouts for standard 297 square foot rooms, but none for the larger spaces. Are these spaces intended to be developed as hotel suites? Could spaces be utilized for longer term rentals? Medium and long-term housing would be an asset to the community and do not increase traffic congestion in the same way as new short-term lodging units. Because the proposed development removes 2 single-family homes in the midst of a housing crisis, it should provide a minimum of 2 replacement units. The proposed development turns an articulated human scale face to Main Street. It would be an enhancement to the downtown if it included some commercial space with street-facing entries. The absence of street-level retail space seems like a significant missed opportunity for a major development on this important central block. Given the uniform roof line and sloping site, the most visible corner of the structure facing Highway 1 is 3 stories tall with no stepping down or back from the foremost corner. The building appears massive and out of scale with the surroundings. This could be ameliorated with open balconies at rooms 10 and 22 instead of enclosed roof balconies. If the volume of the rooms were stepped back rather than out from the adjacent rooms, the effect would be improved further. The massive appearance would also be reduced by using contrasting colors and a darker tone, such as is currently proposed, which would be appropriate on the first floor, with a lighter tone above, establishing Main Street as the primary datum for the building. In keeping with the town's character, it would be also great to see the facade employed some natural and contextually appropriate materials, such as cedar siding. The scale and location of the proposed development mean that, if approved, the structure will be a significant presence in Montara downtown. It is appropriate that the design should address community concerns regarding housing supply, parking, traffic, and the physical character and scale of the town. Thank you, Rebecca Katkin. I wonder if at this point we could start the clock again. That was Rebecca. She was unable to attend, so that I may read my letter. Is that okay for a 3-minute on my letter, which is shorter actually?
Yeah, yes, that should be fine. Janet, could you please, since she's reading other people's correspondence, could you?
And I have one letter after that as well, Ramel. Okay, this letter is from me. I am an architectural designer, member of the Coastal Design Review Committee, and a 31-year resident of Montara. As a member of the public community, I would like to offer some feedback for this new 22-room, 3-story hotel project. Regarding mixed use for commercial properties, county staff has asked the project applicant to comply with the Montara Moss Beach El Granada Community Plan, which includes in item 2, commercial, because the community must provide retail services for both the local population as well as recreational visitors, the location of commercial areas becomes important. This commercial project is located in Montara's commercial center on Main Street. Retail services for residents need to be strengthened by building strong commercial centers. Such centers will not only provide community services, but will serve as focal points as well. The project, as described, currently houses a hotel only. The community is better served by a mixed-use facility that could possibly include longer-term stays for residential use and other commercial uses as listed in the San Mateo County Zoning Doc, Chapter 15, C1 Districts, Neighborhood Business Districts, Section 6251D, uses permitted, retail stores, shops, or businesses. And these could be on either the garage level or the main street ground level. Regarding the issue of residential scale, from a Coastal Commission evaluation of the proposed hotel project around the corner, if the proposed hotel meets the definition of visitor serving in the LCP policy 11.1, it must be evaluated for consistency in the LCP visitor serving facility policies, including but not limited to LCP policy 11.4C, recreation and visitor serving facilities permitted in the coastal zone, which notes, do not subvert the unique small town rural character of the individual communities on the coast side. The building height currently calcs out to 29 feet 2 inches and maxes out at 34 feet 2 inches. To maintain the character of our unique small town, I would propose the building height be limited to 28 feet high, comparable with most of the surrounding structures. Note the elevations do not currently reflect the property sloping to the south on the Main Street side from elevation 132 feet down to elevation 124 feet. Respectfully, Beverly Garrity. Thank you. Ramel, I have one more for Mark Stegmeyer. Is it possible to do a 3-minute on Mark?
Yes, sure.
Thank you. Okay, this is from Mark Stegmeyer, Coastal Design Review Committee member as well, Montara, 35-year resident, Montara resident. Mark says, after reviewing the proposed project at 1350, 1390 Main Street, Montara, I have concerns. The size and scale proposed is greater than the newly submitted parameters by the CDRC for 50% of property development. The recommendation is to scale down the project to meet projected coastal design review criteria. The roof is exposed, number two, the roof is exposed to half of Montara's hillside residents, east side residents that would look down on the project's flat roof with the mansard surrounds. He would recommend to continue with a pitched roof. The proposed siding material is a simulated wood product that inherently has very little definition. He would recommend choosing a natural material with higher definition like shingles and lap siding. Number four, the colors chosen are somewhat outdated earth tones. There could be stain transparent or semi-transparent stain to create the appearance of multiple buildings instead of one large structure. Number five, the lower level should be retail space to help in the revitalization of the small town Main Street. He recommends mixed use. Mark says this is a major addition to our community and it should be carefully thought through project as it will affect all of its residents, both with appeal and congestion. There is another hotel on the next lot to the south. There are many private B&Bs in our community, although not legitimately. The additional ADU volume, additional dwelling unit volume that is under development will undoubtedly fulfill much of the demand for overnight guests. This is an opportunity to create the kind of tourism that allows our community to grow without negative impact. The developer certainly has the right to market and profit from his property. It would benefit everyone if it is done in a conscientious manner. Thank you. And that was Mark Stegmeyer. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Garrity. I'm going to go on to Bill Softke. Hold on just one second. And Mr. Softke, please accept this request, unmute your microphone and begin speaking. Can you hear me?
Now I
Go ahead.
shift command. Does it work now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh,
Go
good. It told me, at any rate, it's telling me the opposite. My name's Bill Softke. I'm a new resident of Montara. My wife and I bought a house here barely over a year ago for a very good reason and delighted with the place in all kinds of ways. But in some sense, I grew up on the coast side because my mom was an environmental reporter for the Country Almanac, a small paper over the hill. And so I learned way more than any kid ought to learn about zoning and land use and open space. She was buddies with the people who preserved Montara Mountain and got the tunnels and stuff like that. So I heard all about that as it was happening. One of the reasons I'm here. Now, a couple of years ago, I moved out of my boyhood home in Menlo Park, which has become truly awful. No one looks at each other. They're all on their phones, horrible traffic, turning into a concrete canyon. So you can imagine what I think about concrete canyons. Moved away and spent over a year in hotels. So we were staying in Marriott's and little tiny dinky places, you know, way better than Motel 6, but not the Ritz either. And we got to learn what it's like being in those places and how they can be very hard on people and how they can be made better. So I got some strong opinions about little things like lighting and noise levels and hallway designs and stuff like that. And one of the best was the ocean view. So we were here. That was one of the ways we discovered Montara, even though it was drizzling so much we couldn't even see Highway 1, much less the ocean. And that was the place which had focused us away from Menlo Park in San Mateo County, so I kept my Prop 13, down to somewhere in the mountains, down to, no, not the mountains. How about the coast side? Half Moon Bay, maybe El Granada, better view, but Montara was it. As soon as we saw this place, we knew this was it. And as soon as we saw our house on 4th Street with a great view with a mountain, it's like, this is certainly it. It's kind of our castle. Now, this is exactly the right mix of nature and community and water and weather and beach and surf. This is the cure for the technology which is ailing the world. And I've been hoping that Montara would have a hotel with essentially small group meeting capacity so that the kinds of outings and conferences and gatherings and community building activities, which can not only help people who live here, but certainly outsiders who need to detox, corporate gatherings and so forth. That kind of thing can be added to a hotel which has perfect non-flickering lighting, not that LED stuff which drives you crazy, the right kind of noise levels, the right kind of interactions, and a place for the public to feel welcome. So I'm just fantasizing that if we're going to put a big building in Montara, it'd be a big building that doesn't have strangers we don't like, that helps the people who go there, and that's a building we're welcome to enjoy ourselves.
Thank you, Mr. Sofke. I next will call upon D'Amato. D'Amato, please accept this request, unmute your microphone and begin speaking.
Hi there. Can you hear us?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, great. My name is Richard. My wife, Divya, is on as well. For context, we actually moved to Montara about 4 days before the stay-at-home order. So back in March. So it's been an interesting moment to move into the community. And I think, you know, it was really important for us to find a home that actually was like getting away from the crowds. We moved from New York. We've lived in the city of San Francisco as well. And we're just, you know, really appreciative of the small town feeling, the community, the ability to, you know, grow our family. We have a 2.5-year-old, do it in a safe place where we get to know our neighbors and get involved and thoughtfully kind of contributing to the community and being a part of how it evolves. I think, you know, a couple of things that have been brought up, you know, resonated for us in terms of, you know, challenges we see with this around, you know, not really understanding how this would be necessarily better from either a traffic impact, you know, obviously needing to unpack more and understand better the environmental impact, but in particular traffic, and then, you know, the benefit to the community itself. Trying to really wrap our heads around why something that, you know, doesn't really seem right now to include any space for the community to actually go, whether it be, you know, retail space, restaurant. I forget the name of the person who spoke before us quite eloquently about, you know, even the idea of there being meeting space or something that, you know, at the very least is a space where people in the community can get benefit from, beyond, you know, what could arguably be better options for longer term housing. You know, and given that there's already a hotel, you know, just half block away, I guess I'm not really understanding as much the need for 22 additional rooms. I think also it's a little bit concerning from like a view standpoint. I appreciate some of the comments and the other, you know, letters that were read around, you know, proposals for a certain height. And I also, you know, wonder about the noise, given just this new shift to working from home, what it would be like, you know, working half a block away from a construction site, and the kind of the impact of that noise and distraction from that as well.
And I just want to add, you know, we're really concerned about having a lot of random people in the town. I mean, we're seeing a lot of young families move in with a lot of young children. We're getting to know our neighbors. You walk around the town, you go to the trails, you go to the beach, and you see familiar faces. And having a hotel here just seems to really make me nervous about inviting a lot of people to come into this town and almost just, you know, have access to the streets and the town, the people and the children that walk around here all the time. And again, we don't see really anything that was proposed that's providing benefit to the residents of Montara, and just feels like this is just really just more of a business decision and a profit center, versus really adding to the community. So we really want to get a better understanding of really what is this contributing to Montara residents.
Thank you so much for your comments. I will next call on Trish Ross. Trish, please accept this request, unmute your microphone and begin speaking.
Hello?
Hi, go ahead.
Okay, great. What I really like about the opportunity is not having to go into Half Moon Bay to go that deep for anything, let alone lodging. And not many people could really afford nice place to stay like the Ritz-Carlton, and that it's close to Pacifica and it's close to San Francisco. And I have gone to the coast forever, and I would so appreciate to be able to stay somewhere decent, fresh and new, and have the opportunity to stay there instead of having to be crunched in a family home for the holidays and what have you. And my family's spread out and they feel the same way. I think it's just a incredible opportunity for someone that doesn't live there. I've hiked those trails for years. I grew up in near San Francisco, and Pacifica and Montara is always my go-to, especially the beaches, because they're never really horribly crowded like it is down further south. And it's just a nice, peaceful spot. I would so appreciate it. I'd stay there. Not a problem. I don't know what else to say other than I just don't want to go all the way down into Half Moon Bay. And I would like to stay somewhere decent that's reasonable and not Ritz-Carlton and clean with a view and close to the beach. I think that's it. The colors, whatever, I don't live there. I don't think it will bring in anybody that would be bad for the community. If it's bad for the community, they're just going to drive in and drive out. They won't stay at a hotel. That's my opinion. I live in a sleepy bedroom area, and things that happen, people come in and come out because my community is only like 17,000. So we live in a very small community. So I know the feel, but it's usually the outsiders that come in and leave. They don't stay. And that's just my opinion. You know, I've got grown kids, and I was a helicopter mom. I paid attention to the community and what was around and who was going. And for the sake of the noise of the construction, I don't know how long it takes to build something like that, but I think that's a temporary thing when it comes to that. And the parking, I don't know. I drive a small car, so it doesn't matter. It's like a little smart car. But thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. And I'm super excited if this goes through, because I don't have to go down to the Ritz-Carlton. Not that I could afford it, but anyway, thank you.
Thanks for your comment. I will now call on Nan Hoagland. Nan, please accept this request, unmute your microphone and begin speaking.
Unmute. Hi, I'm very, very interested in where this project is going. I live across the street on the west side of Highway 1. I'm not thrilled about the idea of temporary people in the neighborhood with a hotel. I experienced that at the beginning of the pandemic, especially when the beach was closed. And there were a lot of people on my street literally using the trees as their bathroom. So that aside, that's partly where I am with this. A lot of people have already brought up some of the questions that I have had, so I won't repeat those. I'm curious about a couple of additional things. It was mentioned that 2 to 3 rooms would be donated for people with low income. I've never heard of that kind of thing before, and I'd like to know more about exactly how that would be facilitated, how that would happen. Another large concern I have is this is very close to the beach, and it's very close to the cliff at the end of Cliffside. The safety of crossing Highway 1 has not been addressed at all. A lot of people cross right down near La Costanera in that parking lot. Most of those people that are crossing there are locals, and they are aware of the traffic patterns and how to get across Highway 1 safely. The people staying at this hotel most likely won't be. They might have family members in the area, but they're just as likely to be from out of the area. And how are we going to make sure that when they go to the beach, it's going to be safe? There's no crosswalks. I even take my life in my hands when I go to walk across to the coffee shop or the gas station store, because Highway 1 is a dangerous street to cross. I'm also very concerned about, it was mentioned that this will alleviate traffic problems along the coast side. I honestly don't see the logic behind that at all. It's, additional people coming and going, as somebody else brought up, service vehicles coming and going. where there's limited left turn lane in Montara. A lot of people, I barely can turn into Seacliff Court sometimes because I have no left turn lane to get into my street. There's, where will people be turning off of Highway 1 to get to this hotel? That's another concern. So those are just some of the things on my mind. I'm very curious to see where this goes next. Thank you.
Thank you. I will next call on Marcia Moriarty. Marcia, please accept this request, unmute your microphone and begin speaking.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I live at 236 7th Street, which is the third house from Main Street opposite the post office. I'm very concerned about the parking situation and the additional traffic. I do not understand. I'm shocked that the only number of required parking, if I understood the first presenter, for a hotel of 22 rooms would be 6 rooms. It seems to me that that is insane, but not unlike many of the requirements having to do with building. I'm interested, if you have 22 rooms and you assume that only 1 car will be there for each room, which you cannot necessarily assume, where are the other 7 people going to be parking in addition to those people who are employees of the hotel? We have a situation already with the parkings at the across the street, directly across the street at the post office. Now, in front of my home, regularly there are cars parked in front of my home for the post office. I knew that when I moved here. I have no problem with that. Those are neighbors, people that live in the community who come and go to the post office on a regular basis. And that just is part of the community situation. But to bring additional cars in to park in front of residences, which inevitably will happen with a 22-room hotel, I think is ludicrous. In addition to that, I'm concerned, you've got the traffic situation. If you spend any time on 7th Street, if there are cars parked on both sides of 7th Street for the post office, there's a visibility issue. And if I understand it correctly, the access to the garage is on 7th Street, but the main access to the hotel itself is on Main. I hope I'm clear about that. It seems to me that it's just adding more problems to an area that we don't need. In addition to which, I don't quite understand the need for additional hotel in the area. I'm not aware of that hotel or bed and board or whatever it is across 7th Street being full at any time. So my concerns mainly have to do with parking. I'm just simply not in favor of the addition of a 22-room hotel, or any hotel for that matter, in that location. I do honor and respect the need for the property owner to have use of his property, but that's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. I will next call on Neil. Neil, please accept this request, unmute your microphone and begin speaking.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, good. Thank you. This Zoom thing's acting a little bit weird. So, one, I guess my name's Neil. I live on the top of Sunshine Valley Road. I've lived here for 15 years. And I moved here because Montara is exactly what Montara is. It's non-commercial. All right. So a couple things. I do respect the owner's right to work with this commercial property, although I think the size of the commercial property in Montara might tell people a little bit about what kind of commercial property areas we need. And I'll just repeat some of the stuff. It's the traffic, it's the parking, it's the infrastructure, okay? But my real question is exactly what does this do for this community, all right? What does it do for me? What does it do for anybody but the property owner? But I'm especially concerned about traffic issues, Everything that's been said about people going across Highway 1, I do not want another stoplight in here to account for this traffic. And I totally think that it will impinge upon everybody who lives right next to this facility from all the perspectives that everybody's already said. So again, I apologize to the property owner. I get it. I understand. I don't want it. I don't think we need it. And I would ask you the question, what will it do for the residents of this community? And those are my thoughts.
Thanks for your comment, Neil. I will next call on Kirk Barker. Kirk, please accept this request, unmute your microphone and begin speaking.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, great. Yes, my name is Kirk Barker. I live on 181 6th Street, which is directly to the north of the properties. And several comments have been expressed regarding the profile and the height looking out onto Main Street. I'm more concerned about how the proposed design will impact the residential currently vacant lots immediately to the west. A 3-story building towering over them will discourage development in those areas. I understand that one of the lots on 6th Street is also owned by the same developer, but is zoned as residential. But I'm concerned that a towering, 3-story building there facing west will overshadow those developments and cause those lots to remain either undeveloped or moved into something else which we wouldn't like. So that's my first consideration. My proposed remedy to that would be similar to the architecture recommendation that was mentioned earlier, which is if the building could be tiered back at each level slightly so that it doesn't just create a flat facade that will dominate the structures to the west. I think that would be very much an improvement on the overall. The second thing I would like to express is, again, as a neighbor directly to the north of it, I'm very concerned about the lighting. And I've seen nothing, maybe it was in the early presentation that I didn't get to see, as to how the lighting will not, ruin the night view that we enjoy here in Montara and, sitting out on the balconies and looking at the stars. I would recommend that those be shaded and certainly angled strongly down, but dimmed as best they could. The third area I'd like to reemphasize is the issue with the parking. Again, it's already difficult enough here to get in and out, and with people parking on our cul-de-sac, which is kind of a dead end here, I'm very concerned about people coming over and blocking our access and us not being able to get out. The next area I would like to concern is one of privacy. Again, being very close to these, I'm very concerned about people being out on balconies, looking over into the adjacent yards. My wife and I very much enjoy sitting out on our balcony and watching the waves, and would like to have some type of privacy barriers so that the views of all the people in the hotel isn't directly looking down and into the neighboring houses, and would like to see that addressed by the developer. And I see that I am out of time, so I will end there.
Thank you, Mr. Baker.
Thank you.
It's Barker, but okay.
Oh, Barker. I will next call on Charles Darkey. Charles, please accept this request, unmute your microphone and begin speaking. Can you hear us?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Thank you for the opportunity. I am principally interested in just getting a copy of the plans, including the elevations. Where is it possible to obtain that?
So you can actually access them through our Acela Citizens Access portal. Also, if you just give us your email address, if you can clearly state your email address, I can also send that to you directly afterwards.
Okay, I will do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. I will next call on Greg Dieguez. Greg, please accept this request, unmute your microphone and begin speaking.
Thanks for the opportunity to comment. I live on 367th Street, which is somewhat up the hill from the post office in Montara. And of course, I would agree with many of the other comments, and I sympathize with the property owner, having everybody tell him how to do his job better. But there is a significant impact potential from this project. I would like to raise a couple of extra things. Some of you are aware that we've written the county a little over a month or more ago, raising a suite of disaster preparedness issues, including evacuation. The county has not, to my knowledge, addressed these, but I'm sure that the Mid-Coast Community Council will be looking into that intensively. From my point of view, this is just adding to the body count in the event of a serious evacuation. We have many things that are not addressed, including eucalyptus trees, which could burn and fall on roads. But if you were here this summer, you know you can't go anywhere on the weekend. I mean, we've just given up trying to go to the hardware store or anywhere. Adding more traffic to that is just going to add to the misery for everybody. And I am very concerned. We saw what happened in Paradise, and they had 5 ways of getting out. We have 1 road going up and down. So until the disaster evacuation can be handled, I don't think it's appropriate to add any population. There is another issue, though, in addition to the infrastructure comments made previously. Firefighting water storage, and this is a point of disagreement between me and the board of the water district, but there are 3 major projects now contemplated that are going to draw on water. And if I took the Big Wave initial building as a proxy for this hotel, the firefighting water storage that's going to be needed for this property is in excess of what is already an inadequate amount held by Montara. And so I would argue that any incremental development has to fully fund in perpetuity the cost of that firefighting water storage, which would be, I'm guessing, 360,000 gallons for this property, but it could be more as it's commercial. And we'll find that out from CAL FIRE. But keep in mind that firefighting water storage is expensive, and that's why residents aren't going to want to pay for it or pay for the ongoing operation and maintenance. In fact, CCWD is planning on reducing its firefighting water storage because it's so expensive to keep. So let's make sure that in addition to all the other potential impacts, we keep the fiscal burden where it belongs, which is on the commercial venture being installed and not on the residents of the community. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will next call on Katarina Williams. Katarina, please accept this request, unmute your microphone and begin speaking.
Perfect. Can you hear me? Okay, perfect. I'm a resident as well here in Montara with my partner and kids of 6 years. And prior to this in Pacifica for about 6 other years. Prior to that in San Francisco. And I've lived here in this Montara community specifically because it's a very private community. It's often not even known around the Bay Area. However, speaking to a lot of new and young families that are moving into the neighborhood, we find that there's a lot of needs that we would really like Montara to consider. Those involve things like a child care enrichment activity center, perhaps a senior center, a community center where the neighbors can come together in a planned, structured outdoor space with COVID. A bar or a lounge or a restaurant would be very welcome, again, for local residents to enjoy. Perhaps a WeWork space, a shared workspace that could be built out, again, for local residents that cannot be working at home for whatever reasons. There could be a library or sport complex. There could be a mixed market hub of different food restaurants available, but essentially creating something that would be for the residents of Montara that would be fairly under the radar, low key and privately known, again, to the residents of Montara. Additionally, if we were to consider a hotel, which I'm not sure who is asking for that or where the public comment or initiative for that came, it could certainly be turned into a community hotel. I'm not sure of the layout. I know they said 22 rooms, but something offering yoga or a spa or a sauna that would be more involved for locals, perhaps having a local requirement to be able to book a room there, or locals who have direct family to come here could be done. When I think of a hotel, I imagine bigger buses. I know some people have really small cars, but I'm sure there'd be groups traveling here that would wear down our roads. Of course, it would be more people walking around wanting to explore, which could be a liability for regular residents driving their regular commutes to and from work. Certainly, light and noise pollution considerations should be tested and considered for our beautiful town that's really dark at night, allows us to see the stars. There would be additional electromagnetic radiation coming from this hotel, not to mention waste and how that would be managed. Additionally, there are sustainable building options now. Perhaps the residents of Montara want to think of new buildings done in a sustainable way. And finally, in speaking to Caltrain, when all of this fire evacuation happened, we don't have an escape route. We don't have an evacuation plan that's known to the community. And adding new people, higher traffic into our community when we ourselves don't really have a plan in the event of a wildfire. We have a eucalyptus forest in Pacifica, would be something that I think our community feels strongly and would like to consider. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your comment, Ms. Williams. I will go ahead and call next on Timothy Pond. Timothy, please accept this request, unmute your microphone and begin speaking.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
My name is Tim Pond. I've lived on the coast for 31 years. First of all, I'd like to speak to some of the people that have moved here recently and don't want anybody else to come here for reasons of fear or whatever else it is. The Coastal Commission was established, and one of the primary mandates is for people that live on the coast not to make it their own and to allow others to use the beach. So one of the mandates is visitor serving. And as an Airbnb host who doesn't do it anymore, I can tell you there's a big need out there for places for people to stay that are reasonable in price. People have come up to me in the last couple of days. They haven't been able to find anything for under $250 a night. And these are mostly people that are looking to stay locally with family. And that's a lot of the people that I served when I had an Airbnb with that. They're older people, people without the means to stay at the Ritz-Carlton. I don't really think that the traffic that goes to this hotel is going to impact the traffic that comes to the coast. The traffic on the coast we see is largely a heat retreat from the valley. On hot days, they come here. Another thing is this is the only safe place to come in the pandemic. So you're seeing people come here out of a need to go to the beach. And to say this is all horrible is one thing, but actually it's a need for people to recreate and get outside, and the beach is a place where it can be safely done. And also, I don't know about this fire escape thing and the whole using Paradise as an example, but we have a large body of water with non-flammable sand. And if you go to the beach, you will be safe in a fire. Do not drive up Highway 1. Do not drive down Highway 1. Go to the beach. The last thing I'd like to say is retail is dead. The gentleman said he would like to see restaurants up here. We have 2 empty restaurants in Montara right now. There are 2 empty restaurants. There's nobody that's going to rent it there unless there are people staying here to go to restaurants. And I think this hotel would add people that need to eat out and go to local restaurants. If you have 26 people and there's no restaurant in this building, they're going to use the other local restaurants. So, you know, it'll add jobs to the coast too. It will add jobs. It will promote the local economy. But most of all, I think it will give people a place to come and stay. And I don't think there's any need for retail. As Paul mentioned, I think earlier, somebody did, there are empty retail spaces up and down Montara. There's storefronts that are empty all over there. I don't know why you'd want to add someone or add one or burden, with more of that. So I think you could put a green roof on it and on the flat roof and get rid of the mansard. I think that would be nice for the neighbors to look at with some wildflowers up there. But I'm out of time. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure speaking.
Thank you, Mr. Pond, for your comment. I will next call on Dan Haggerty. Dan, please accept this request, unmute your microphone and begin speaking.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Although I agree with many of the previous comments, I noticed, I see my name now on the page, but earlier the names were not updated, so the community members were not able to clearly see who was speaking. So beyond, the out of scale with the small town character of the community, and all the added left turns that will be required in a dangerous area, I'd like to see generally better overall planning in the community with all of the existing conditions. And, one of the things I think that were not brought up is, similar to the fact that most residents on the coast side feel that they're prisoners in their own homes during the peak hours and the busy times in the highway. Most of them, do not use the highway on purpose at those times. They only drive if they have to. Similar, I believe that, most residents are not crossing the highway to use the beach because of the difficulty that they know, and the danger involved, at the peak times. The hotel guests, on the other hand, I expect won't care and will feel more entitled and, for access to the beach, and they'll muscle their way across, forcing dangerous situations. I don't believe it's fair to the community to make this Highway 1 more difficult to cross and use for all of the residents and the visitors. I believe that the developer should mitigate with a requirement to put money towards the very much needed pedestrian underpass near 2nd Street, where most of the crossings pedestrians take place. I understand this is a visitor serving element to the California Coastal Commission, but I feel that it should be in scale with the resident, with the community, and I just don't believe that as it's proposed is appropriate. There needs to be more planned mitigation for all of the impacts to the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Haggerty. I'll go ahead and call on Katie Kastuik. Katie, please accept this request. Unmute your microphone and begin speaking. Katie, can you hear us? Okay, let's give Katie a few more seconds.
Yeah, let's give her a few more seconds and see if she's Let me ask her to unmute. Let me see if I can.
Or you try it. I tried it.
You did. Well,
We
we
could
can
always
always come back to Katie next.
Perfect. Let's move on to Kimberly Williams. Kimberly, please accept this request, unmute your microphone and begin speaking.
Hi.
Hi, go ahead.
I am a Coastside resident of 13 years. I lived in the county more than 20 years. And I'm not necessarily opposed to this project, but I would like to see whatever project goes in here to be scaled to the community and that it fits in with the character of the community. Sustainable building practices would be appreciated for better quality building. And I wholeheartedly support beach access, but I do have concerns about visitors crossing Highway 1. I'm also very concerned about lighting and signage. As others have said, I would like to preserve the beauty of the night sky on the coast. I also have a concern about trash from visitors. We're having problems with that now, and I'd like to think about ways to mitigate that. And then the other thing I'm concerned about is parking, as others have mentioned. So I won't go through all of those points again, but I think any project there should be respectful of the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thanks for your comment.
Thank you.
I'll go ahead and call on Katie one more time. Katie, please accept this request, unmute your microphone and begin speaking.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes.
Hi, sorry about that. Literally right in the middle of bedtime for toddlers. I'll be as brief as possible. I unfortunately wasn't able to listen to every part of the presentation this evening, but I'm a licensed architect and a member of the Coastside Design Review Committee, and I'm a resident of El Granada. I have some design feedback to offer as a CDRC member and architect. Commercial development in the Mid-Coast is an asset, and the limited properties zoned for commercial development make it really important anchor in the community aesthetic and small town feel. There's several documents that this project needs to be reviewed against. Those would include the Montara, Moss Beach, El Granada Community Plan, as well as the Design Review Community Design Manual. So I'll speak to a couple of those things. Is there any possibility of sharing a screen? I'll keep talking and hopefully somebody will answer me on that. A lot of my concerns have been echoed by some of the other speakers. One concern that I just wanted to mention that was not in the letter that I sent to the county was about the floor plan. You know, there's only a couple of rooms that have layouts shown, and without the whole full complete floor plans done, it doesn't really give us a full picture of how those spaces are used. I know that there have been other hotel properties that have basically tried to avoid a formal design review hearing process by making the apartment where the manager would live on site appear like it's a guest room, and that it's an office and a break room when it was very obviously an apartment. So that's a concern for me. I think that the building forms need to blend with the natural landforms and step down the site, as others have mentioned. I have sent in some markups that shows ways that could potentially be considered to revise the roof lines and step it down, as well as adding some of the character on the Highway 1 side that we see on the Main Street side. I think that the different textures of siding and different colors definitely help break down the mass and scale, but there's a lot more that can be done, and I think that we've made some other recommendations for having more contrast between the main body color and the trim color, as well as more open railings and additional gables with board and batten that reflect what's happening at the gable at the front entrance. So I've got a markup that has shown that other than removing rooms 10 and 12, I think that would help reduce the visual mass substantially. So I think in the absence of being able to share the markups on how I think this could be improved with very moderate changes for the applicant. Hopefully the applicant and the county will be able to take a look at those materials, and even better would be if they could be made available to the public to view. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Katie.
Thanks, Katie. Just to note, we did receive your correspondence, and they will be reviewed by staff, and they've been forwarded to the applicant as well. On to the next person.
So I just want to point out that other folks that have already spoken are raising their hands one more time. And so I know that we're only allowing people to speak on one time during the hearing, but it's up to your discretion, Ramel. Just wanted to point that out. And then
Sure. Unfortunately, because of the amount of speakers we have, we still have quite a few to go through, and this meeting was technically scheduled to end at 8 o'clock. For that sake, we are only going to let everybody speak once because the applicant and also staff need to be able to respond to a lot of these comments. Thank you.
Thank you. I will next call on Harold. Harold, please accept this request, unmute your microphone and begin speaking.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Harold.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. So I listened to a couple of developers during the last couple of years. There's really one common theme. So basically they draw small radius around their development and avoid to put it in context of any other developments or large scale developments that basically happen nearby. And that's really what we see on the coast side. So when we look at this specific development, we have in less than a mile, we have a 71 unit development across the Montara Lighthouse. So that's gonna add about 300 to 350 new residents. Traffic study estimates 500 daily trips. And then in Southmost Beach, we have Big Wave, which is 50 units, which with a large commercial office park, which equates the size of 1.5 Walmarts. That's approved, work started. And the Hexagon traffic study estimates 1,500 daily trips. So I think that's what needs to be in context for this specific hotel. Second item I want to comment on is water, and Greg had some good comments. So when you look up water consumption for hotels, the range is between 100 on the low end to 400 gallons of water per room per day. So 100 to 400, and things like on-site laundry, irrigation needs for landscaping, you know, if a hotel has a pool, so that adds all to it. I guess the high end is probably not valid here. But if we take the 100 gallons per room per day, we end up with 800,000 gallons per year. If we take 200 gallons per room times 22 times 365, we end up with 1.6 million gallons of water per year. To put that in context, our water tank storage in Montara Water holds 1.4 million. And now we need to add Big Wave, which is approved, and then the development across the Montara Lighthouse. So water is certainly an issue. And then sewer. So the hotel going to create also significant wastewater. And we had between 2011 and 2017, 101 sewer overflows on the coast side. So this is a 5.5 year period. Montara Water had 28 sewer overflows. And some of these actually hit open water. So these are my comments. So traffic, water, and sewer. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. One moment.
Thank you, Ramel. So next we have Sharon Thompson. Sharon, please accept this request, unmute your microphone and begin speaking.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. My husband and I are residents of Montara. We've lived here for 35.5 years. We live on Main Street at the corner of 6th and Main. And I am very concerned about Mr. McGregor's property. I perfectly understand that it's his property and he has every right to build on it. However, I am not happy with the impact that the property is going to have. Across the street from me is a 4-unit apartment building, and almost every day in the 35 years that we've lived here, there has been no parking in front of my home. People always think we have lots of people visiting, and none of those people are visiting us. They are all visiting or living across the street. So I'm very concerned about the parking on Main Street. I would like to add that I think the scale of the building is very much out of character with the rest of the locality. I think that we are already maxing out our sewer and water, and residents of Montara who own their own properties are paying $1,660 plus $295 on our property taxes already for sewer and water bonds. I think 22 rooms is too many, and I would like to see the number reduced. I don't want the hotel to go away. I think it's not a bad idea to have a small hotel that's within keeping of the neighborhood. I think also that the parking is not adequate based on the fact that of my experience of the number of people parking in front of my house already. And I don't think there's a employee parking provision been provided. I also think the height restriction from the street needs to be strictly enforced. I think that access to beaches, as many people have said, is very dangerous without walking down Highway 1. I'm also concerned about nighttime lighting. The Farallon Inn is in the next block over, and the lights from the back of that building shine directly into my bedroom at night. And so I get to see those every single night. This hotel will be even closer. I also am very concerned with the amount of congestion with the post office traffic already directly across the street, which other people have also mentioned. I just think the building is out of character with its size. Apart from that, if he can reduce the size and come up with a better alternative and make it look better, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you so much, Ms. Thompson. I will go ahead and call on Peter Wilhoit, and I apologize if I'm messing up on your last name, but I'm trying my best. And so, Peter, please accept this request, unmute your microphone, and begin speaking.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Great. I'm Peter. My wife Karen and I and our two young children live on 8th Street, just up from Farallon, so a few blocks away, far enough away so that, you know, selfishly, the visual impacts won't, you know, be too damaging for our view. The parking won't be much of a problem. So we're not, you know, we're not feeling it acutely like some folks who live closer. We are not NIMBY folks. We are actually all for development and think that the future of the coast side is bright if we open our doors to good, well thought out development that is mixed use, good for the community. These are the same points that we've been hearing echoed throughout the course of the meeting. And we would just love, you know, sorry, I have a baby here. We would just be excited about a cool community center, a cafe, a restaurant, a meeting space, a gathering space. And I know that there are some empty restaurant spaces and speculation as to whether another one would really make a difference. But to be frank, none of these ones that currently exist here feel like terribly good bids. You know, portable, easy takeout that's good for families, but the vibes are also chill enough such that you would want to spend time there, tourists and community members alike. It seems like such a missed opportunity to not, in the largest development on Main Street in our tiny town, think about these sorts of things. We share everybody's concerns about crossing to the beach. We go to the beach all the time, and dragging our two little kids in the wagon is really, really scary. And we do it all the time. And it feels like you got to have a pro-grade approach in order to be successful, and think that it would be scary to think about a lot of new people trying to execute that crossing themselves. And I anticipate dangerous situations arising. You know, with regards to the look, to be frank, it's not exactly my taste. It looks a bit like it was designed in the 90s, and we would prefer something more, I don't know, modern, but also timeless in design. And I guess, you know, I'm no architect, but I could imagine something more beautiful and coastal that blends with our kind of eclectic community in a positive way. I think that's pretty much all we wanted to say. We just wanted to add our voice to those kind of asking for some sort of mixed use solution, and, you know, hope that something like that can happen. I don't know, my wife is here. Do you have anything to add, Karen?
No, I echo everything that other people have said, and just, you know, if there was something here where there was like, you know, a good cafe, family friendly restaurant, like we wouldn't have to drive down to Half Moon Bay or up to Pacifica, and we would love something like that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments.
Thank you.
I will go ahead and call on Rusty and Sue next. So Rusty and Sue, please accept this request, unmute your microphones and begin speaking.
Hi.
Hi, go ahead.
Can you hear me? Hi, this is Sue. My husband Rusty and I are 12-year Montara residents. I have a few concerns. A lot of them are echoing what everybody else has said already. I was curious as on what basis that it was decided that we needed more hotel space, that if there has been an occupancy study done and if it already includes the new hotel going in on the south side of Half Moon Bay. If there is a study, I would like to see that posted, have an opportunity to look at it to really see that we do need a hotel. Parking is another issue. We just don't have enough parking down on Main Street and right around there for hotel guests. They're not just going to be coming just to go to the beach. They're also going to be coming to go to events, things at people's houses and parties and things like that. They could be arriving late or coming home late from parties, and then because there is no parking, be parking in our neighborhoods, which is noisy and intrusive to the residents. There isn't any consideration for staff parking. They need to figure out how to solve this parking issue, because that's not being friendly to the residents of Montara. And supposedly this project is for the benefit of Montara. I am concerned too about the bulk. By merging the lot and having one huge building, you don't have two different sets of setbacks. So you've just got this huge, massive bulk. Maybe keep it two separate lots and do two separate buildings. And you could have some retail space mixed in with the hotel space and make it more like a friendly inn that is more fitting with a small community, and also give the community some places to go and use. You could also put the parking down below for use for both of these types of activities. And then on the low cost rooms that are going to be for families, I'd like to see those drawn out in the building. As it has been stated, we don't see how those rooms are going to be used. So if these are going to be family friendly, I'd like to see how that's going to be set up so that it really is able to be used by families. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comment.
Thank you.
I will go ahead and call on Dolores Silva next. Dolores, please accept this request, unmute your microphone and begin speaking.
Hello, my name is Dolores Silva. I live in Moss Beach. I've lived in Moss Beach for 30 years. And so much has been covered. I'm very impressed with the presentation as well as the comments that have been made, particularly by the CDRC. And there's a lot of issues. We're a small community. We have, I've been working with Mid-Coast Eco, Resist Density, and you may know about us, but we're very concerned that the whole picture isn't considered in some of these projects. And I think that this hotel, although 22 rooms doesn't seem large, it is somewhat large for our community. And we have serious concerns about our infrastructure, particularly public works, sewer and water that has been covered, the roads and the safety. Highway 1 is a main corridor here that everybody uses, and everything leads back to it. So I'm particularly concerned about the coastal character and how this is going to stay within that coastal character. I'm not impressed with the looks of it and the bulk of it and the potential lighting of it. But I do understand property rights. However, overall, some questions that we would have is, how are these affordable units going to be managed? We appreciate that everyone should have access to the coast. And the traffic implications have more to do with just the fact that already we're almost inaccessible. And I don't know that more hotel units are needed because of all the usage now of people renting out their own rooms. And I think that the demand is insatiable on the coast, not so much maybe on the other side of the hill, but here it is. And just how much can our public works handle? Greg did an excellent job covering our water and our concerns about that, and the sewer as well. So I would like to know how this is going to be managed in the overall scheme. And I would like to know how this is going to keep the coastal character the way that we know and love it and people come to enjoy. And I appreciate the time to have this opportunity to speak and the efforts that the builder has gone through, but still many questions remain, and we look forward to hearing more. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will next call on Deborah Lardy. Deborah, please accept this request, unmute your microphone, and begin speaking.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Great. I'm a longtime resident of Montara, and I had several comments I wanted to make. The first one is in response to what I read in the Half Moon Bay Review, where the developer says that we need a hotel in Montara. I'm wondering what kind of data supports that, because Montara is part of the entire coast side, and there's a lot of hotels already on the coast side. So I'm questioning as to whether there really is a need there. In terms of the appearance of the building, I don't think it's compatible with the rural character here. It's way too big. It's out of scale to the surrounding properties, and it's gonna block views from everyone behind it and the post office that we all go to and treasure. So this would have a really negative impact on the feeling of Montara as a small village. I'm concerned about the lack of water and how expensive that the utilities have gotten for the water and sewage, and how this is going to impact that. I'm concerned about the parking impact, which has been brought up by several other people. And I wanted to mention that the hotel that to the north of this site has illegal lights on it. They're grossly non-compliant with the lighting requirements in the county, especially for a commercial hotel. And they were cited at least 2 years ago about this non-compliance, and that these lights are still in use. So if the county cannot enforce the hotel to the north, how is it going to enforce a larger operation that's proposed for this site? I would really like to see some follow-up and compliance by the county with the lighting that's in use right now, and for this commercial enterprise, and for the other commercial enterprise that's not being enforced. Thank you.
Thanks for your comment.
Thank you.
I will next call on Christian Haidon. Christian, please accept this request, unmute your microphone and begin speaking.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Hi, this is Christian. I was born and raised in Montara, and I think I appreciate a lot of the comments, and I share some of the concerns. I'd say lighting is a big thing. But I think overall, I'm really excited. I grew up and I remember working at the Chart House, and a lot of the local kids worked at the Chart House. And I think this would be a great opportunity for local kids to have a job. I think there's a lot of opportunity with this, for the local community in that regard. I also think that, crossing the highway, I have 5 kids. I cross the highway all the time. It's not that hard. You just basically wait and then you cross the highway. And I just think that we got to make sure that we balance letting someone who owns a property do things, because I think he's going to have to follow the design review. He's going to have to follow the coastal commission. There's going to be a lot of impact from really intelligent people, like the people who are making comments earlier, that are going to kind of address a lot of the concerns. But I think we also got to make sure that we're, not too selfish, because I don't really think that I've ever, since the whole time I've lived here, see a problem with parking on that part of Main Street. I think there's other parts of Main Street you might have trouble parking, but I mean, I go into that little building that's there now, and I go visit my friend who works there, and I think I've never seen more than 3 cars parked there. So I don't think there's a problem with parking. I think that a lot of the people who would work there, I think it was said that it's going to be a family-run business, which I think is good. And I think that I just don't think the parking is going to be an issue. And I do think that the traffic is a problem, but I don't see how the impact of this property, it wouldn't be that big on the traffic. But, I think a lot of studies will be done. I heard someone mentioning about water and infrastructure. Well, all these small towns, they've really had dead commercial for my whole lifetime, since the 70s. So I think some other comments that some younger families were saying, that would be like a restaurant and things like that. The problem is they have to be profitable. And a long time ago, I actually tried to buy the Chart House. I knew one of the original owners. And one reason I didn't is because it's so hard to make a restaurant profitable on the coast back then. So now maybe you could, but this location would be difficult. But would it be great for the community to have a kind of take home food? I think that would be awesome. But at the same time, it's like for the owner, it's a hard decision, because, there's not that much demand. I think I went over my time. So I'll stop.
Thank you for your comments.
I will next call on Ashley Kleckner. Ashley, please accept this request, unmute your microphone and begin speaking.
Ashley's voice just got very deep. This is her husband, Scott Atkinson. Ashley and I live on 6th Street, and have been living in Montara for the last couple of years. We love our community. It's an amazing place, and we have a 2.5-year-old daughter who we look forward to raising here. I sit on a number of conservation organization boards. I have a master's in environmental science and policy. And so I'm coming at this with more of a conservation lens on, but I will say Harold's comments earlier really struck a chord, and I really would second everything that Harold said. But as a follow-up, because I don't think it's been talked about, one of the big reasons we moved to Montara was to take advantage of the mountain, and we have extensive biodiversity here, and the mountain serves as a real safe haven for unique fauna, such as the red-legged frog and the San Francisco garter snake and a number of endangered plant species. And What does that have to do with the hotel being put downtown? Not much until you start to think about water. And Montara would not have the water resources to support such high levels of biodiversity if we were to suck up and make unsustainable our the 5 main streams that we have right now. And from what I can glean from my own research, I don't believe Montara is sufficiently monitoring what effects we've been had on our water system, and certainly San Mateo County is not monitoring any of the wells that are going on any kind of long-term basis. And it's, again, scary because we've changed our local water system over the last few decades in a pretty substantial way. And so as we move forward, I would really implore and hope that, Montara, as part of this, looks into, how having the hotel is going to impact the, hydrological process here in Montara specifically, because as people have pointed out, it is a small town, but we can have a very, very big impact on the human life and the biodiversity that is very, very unique to Montara, and frankly is a big draw for residents and for visitors alike. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for your comment. I will next call on, it looks like Joe on Cedar Street. So Joe, please accept this request, unmute your microphone and begin speaking.
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Joe Gunter and I live on Cedar Street in Montara for 38 years. My kids have grown up here. I have grandkids growing up here. I have family members that come to visit and they need a place to stay, What I'm hearing is that we need to have a rec center, a YMCA, a conference room, coffee shops, childcare. The property is really not that big. There's bigger properties over in Princeton that could have those type of opportunities and, there are also daycare centers off of Highway 1 across from Sam's. People come here to the coast to enjoy the coast and to stay. The coast is for everybody in California. I mean, that's why I moved down here, What brought all the traffic? The tunnel. I oppose the tunnel, but it's here, and people are coming down here. The pandemic's brought a lot of people too. The coast is kind of wakening up, well, that's the way it is. It's not a big town, in the early 80s, they were going to build 200 condominiums over here, and that got shot down. And I was in favor of that getting shot down. But this also, someone said about the water. This is Montara Water and Sanitary District. This isn't CCWD. This isn't CCWD. Anyway, it's a family-run business. The developer is a local resident for 38 years. His kids grow up here, they work here. He's going to employ local help. I'm in favor of the project. Thanks.
Thanks for your comment.
Thank you.
We will next call on Chris Johnson. Chris, please accept this request, unmute your microphone and begin speaking.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to comment in this pre-application hearing. I am also a member of the Cosign Design Review Committee. I live in El Granada, so I won't be immediately impacted by this. I wanted to point out to people on this meeting that because of the zoning, this project is not eligible for design review by the Cosign Design Review Committee. So it will not be reviewed by them. It will be a ministerial review by zoning officer, I believe, or a planner at the planning department. So that people need to understand that. But there's been some great comments by folks on the design review committee already tonight. And I just want to add a couple of things that as I looked at this, my concerns about this project. We have talked to design review about expanding the purview to look at commercial projects to keep the flavor and consistency of the coast side community. But one of the things we talked about is Main Street in Montara as a commercial zone. It's zoned commercial, but as somebody pointed out earlier, most of the commercial properties there have been converted to residential, leaving it a kind of non-commercial commercial zone. So we discussed, well, what are the kinds of businesses that would succeed there? Because it's a deserted commercial zone for a reason, right? It's hard to have a business work there. So a small hotel like this, I think, is something that could work there. It could be something that attracts other attendant businesses. And I'm running out of time, but my concerns are, I'm worried about where the driveway is placed on 7th Street. 7th Street is a short, steep street. There's traffic queues up coming off of Highway 1, coming down from Main Street to turn into that driveway there. I think that's going to be an issue. Also, this is for visitors. There is not the infrastructure in Montara to handle these visitors. There's no bike path, so there's no way to get anywhere else. You can't get to Devil Slide Park. You can't get to Half Moon Bay on a bike because there's no bike path. There's no crossing at all, no safe crossing at either 2nd or 14th to get across the street to the beach. So that's going to be a problem there. And I feel that there needs to be some infrastructure developments before we add 1 or 2 more hotels. There's another hotel that's been proposed on Main Street as well. And then two shades lighter tone of paint. The paint is a little dark on there, and I think it adds to the massing. The south elevation is a little tall, and the massing there could be helped by some wall articulation as identified by Rebecca Kotkin. My last comment is I'm not opposed to this hotel here. I think 22 rooms is reasonable. The parking is a problem. And I guess the question I would have for planners is, can we go any deeper than 1 story down? I mean, one level down into the earth for excavation for parking. I've been to some places on Hawaii where there's 3 or 4 parking levels below the ground surface. Is there a possibility that that could be done, and possibly this could be an additional revenue generator for the developer of, some additional parking spots at the 2nd or 3rd level down? Thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Thanks for your comment. And then next we have Shelley. Shelley, please accept this request, unmute your microphone and begin speaking.
Hi, my name is Shelley. I live in Montara. I just had a question actually, which was, I didn't understand why this was designated a hotel versus a motel. And my data may be old, but it used to be that like a hotel would have 1 parking for 4 rooms because you're in downtown San Francisco, and that makes sense. But if you were in a rural area or a small community like this, it would be a motel, in which case it would require 1 off-road parking per unit. I think that would alleviate a lot of the problems that a lot of us are concerned about of this community there's really no public transportation. The bus goes and it takes forever and it's very slow. I mean, it doesn't come very often. So I think most people, 99% of the clients would be in a car. So I don't understand that. So that was one question, is to, shouldn't this be a motel and require off-road parking per unit? In which case, then I don't know, like the previous caller, maybe it would be less than, it would be less than, if you had more parking spots underneath the ground, or reduce it from 22 to whatever it needs to be to have enough parking off the road. So that's one of my main concerns. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Ramel, it looks like That's all our hands.
Okay, then we'll close public comment, and we will now open up for responses from both staff and from the applicant. I will start first, just to go over some of the major things that have come up in this discussion. Let me start with height, because that has come up quite a bit, and the applicant can also speak on this more, but I do want to show one slide. 1 second, let me share my screen. So for some of you who have ever done any sort of projects in the county before, you may have seen this diagram. This is what we give to applicants as part of 3 height diagrams showing how to measure height within certain zoning districts. There was in some of the emails and correspondence we received, especially, and also the comments that we've received today, there's been some confusion on this. So for this zoning district, for the S district, height is measured from an average, and the applicant has adequately demonstrated their compliance with this specific way of measurement on their plans. Essentially, what you're doing here is you have top of the roof, you have the highest horizontal plate, and then you have this midpoint between the two, and then you take the highest finished grade and the lowest finished grade, and you take the midpoint between those two, and you take that height, and that is considered your, whatever the height of your building is. Now, obviously, there are concerns with, well, yeah, this is great, but how tall is this actually when it comes out of the ground? And so I believe the applicant spoke on this briefly a while ago, but they can also speak on this again. Let me stop sharing my screen. 1 moment. Okay, so for parking has come up a lot. And so the applicant is going to be required to comply with the parking regulations that live within our zoning regulations. And so that, as one speaker just noted, is 1 parking space for every 4 guest bedrooms. So in total, technically, the applicant needs 5 rooms. Now, they have actually provided in excess of those rooms, but that is what governs that. In terms of traffic, a traffic report will be required as part of this project, both in the sense for environmental review, but also for looking for conformance with local coastal program policies. Regarding water and sewer capacity, this project is going to be reviewed and already has been reviewed once by the Montara Water and Sanitary District. And so they will be evaluating their water and sewer capacity for this sort of project. In terms of design, as Chris Johnson pointed out, staff will be reviewing for compliance with applicable design review standards. This is not subject to review by the COSIDE Design Review Committee because of the lack of a residential component. There were also a lot of comments about lighting. We will be looking at lighting. Generally, we ask that lighting be confined to the premises, but we will be taking a closer look at that. In terms of access, there have been some comments about the location of the driveway. And so the Department of Public Works will be reviewing that driveway aspect. And so that will be part of their review. And finally, there has been this has come up. The applicant has noted the desire to provide low cost, some more affordable rooms, I suppose. The local coastal program does encourage low cost facilities and privately developed visitor serving facilities. And so not to say that it requires it, but it is something that is encouraged. Now I'll turn it over to the applicant, to Mr. McGregor and Mr. Brinkman, for them to answer any of the questions that they would like to go through. Paul, are you with us? Brian?
Hey, Ramel, thanks for that. I'm gonna let Paul probably respond more. I think you responded already to a lot of the items that I would respond to. I think there was some good feedback tonight. Definitely some things that we can take a look at. But I'll let Paul respond to some of the other items.
Is it my turn to respond?
Yes. Yes. It is.
Okay, so you can hear me right now?
Mhm.
Okay, you know, I'm going to go through some of the comments made by previous people that have spoken on behalf and in rejection of the project. The traffic component of this project will be addressed at some point in time as a project progresses. If you're familiar with Montara on 7th Street right there, when you go towards Highway 1, you're only allowed to take a right-hand turn when you exit onto Highway 1. So going north would not be a problem. You're not supposed to take a left to go south. As far as traffic coming in, yeah, that area right there, it can be tough, but you know, there's other alternatives to come into the hotel on Main Street. As far as amount of parking goes, the parking that we've supplied with the project will definitely facilitate what needs to be done there as far as staff and hotel guests go. And so let me go on to some other comments. You know, there are other areas in Montara that do have some commercial zoning. And I would actually like you guys to look into that. There are some places back in Montara on Cedar Street that is zoned commercial, and maybe they should be looked at as far as putting in shops and boutiques and spas and all the other stuff that the people have requested. In my experience, since I've been on the coast for 38 plus years, that commercial in this particular neighborhood is not desirable. And I can speak from experience. So experience tells me that since I own the beauty salon and the graphic design works with 3 apartments up above at 1300 Main Street, that is the only applicable business that actually works there. If you go up and down Main Street in Montara, the majority of the commercial uses have already been converted to residential without the blessing of the county or anybody else and so forth. I'm not going to give you names and locations. I'm sure that the residents of Montara can figure that out. Parking, traffic flow, and so forth. That's one thing. So let me go into a few of the other details. Low-cost rooms. As it sits right now, the California Coastal Commission requires that a certain amount of hotel rooms be afforded to people that can't afford to stay here because they don't have the means and they don't have a lot of money, and it'd be a nice place for them to come visit. You know, everybody always says not in my backyard, but realistically, people of lower income should be able to come and enjoy the coast. So, you know, don't take away from where they want to come and when they want to come here. And I would like to be able to afford them to be able to do that. As far as rates go, that's to be determined. Let me go on to a few other comments. Lighting concerns. The county will obviously make me use dark sky lighting, and I don't plan on putting lights out there to broadcast to keep everybody awake at night and to interfere with their beauty rest, shall we say. A little comment, a little funny. And you know, I'm not here to take away from our community. I'm here to improve our community. So with that being said, I'll let Ramel take over. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Okay. Thank you for addressing the public's comments and concerns. So with that, this concludes the major development pre-application meeting. As I said previously, all of you who have either left their email address with us or are within the mailing radius will receive a copy of the summary letter in which we will go through the points that were both in the correspondence and raised at this meeting. And so if there were some aspects that you didn't feel like were fully answered, the letter will probably shine much more clarity on those things. With that, thank you again and have a good night.
Thank you, Ramel.
Thank you, Paul.